My people, welcome to You and I Talk Show, another new episode, interesting, talking in Spanish, talking about South American movies. As you may already have been in Vancouver, the Latin American Festival. Amazing people on the show today. Stay tuned. You and I Talk Show with your favorite host, Louise UWACU. Welcome. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. You and I, you and I, you and I talk. Louise UWACU, Imana, and UWACU Productions. My people, welcome to the show. Today, Latin America in the house. ¿Cómo está? Bienvenido a Vancouver.
Gracias. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.
It's a big pleasure being here with you.
We have Arturo Menendes. Yeah. He's the director. And we have Alfonso Qujada. Am I saying it right?
Holy cow. You almost sound like you're from
Latin America.
I'm trying to learn. I've been to Mexico. I loved it so much. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to learn, interest myself more. So you guys are in Vancouver for the festival.
Yes.
How did you get involved with the festival? We're going to start from you because you're the guest. You're visiting from El Salvador.
Yes, I'm visiting Vancouver for the first time, Canada for the first time. Coming from El Salvador. I'm a writer-director of a film titled The Crow's Nest, MALACRIANZA in Spanish. And it's for me, it's incredible to be here. I remember when all this was an idea, you know, when I used to tell Alfonso, my producer, and I used to tell him about this idea I had, and I wanna to make, you know, and make it real. And so in the moment I started shooting the film, we didn't have because we were working in another idea, and so I started making this film, and after I finished, Alfonso had everything he knew about how I made this film, and how he suddenly said, "Look, listen, let's work together. I'll help you finish the film." And he came together. He came and financed with part of executive producer from here, from Vancouver, the rest of the film, and that's how we could finish it, you know, and that's how I come here to, after 2 years, you know, after all this.
2 years process.
Yes, 2 years process. And since we talked like every day, you know, and every week, and he always tells me about the people, about the places. For me, Vancouver is like in my mind, you know, I had this picture of it, and I knew the people already because I met with some guy I met with in that cafeteria, and that's in this street, you know, and so now that I come, it became reality.
Oh,
so
wow.
It's really good, yeah.
So the way you imagined Vancouver to be, is the reality corresponding, or what's the reaction?
It's even better.
Oh.
It's even better, Vancouver. I'm in love with this city, really. I'm in love with it. I like the people. I like how everything works in the city, and hopefully I can come, more often. And we work in another film with Vancouver. It will be absolutely great.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what are you hoping? This is not so many people have gotten to see the movie yet, but what is it when you make this film? What are you hoping to get to the viewers?
You know, I wanted to share a little bit of El Salvador's reality. I don't want to point my finger on anybody, but just tell a story that it's in the context of what El Salvador is suffering right now, because we're having a lot of trouble, a lot of problems over there. And I think that pointing the finger at something may be a little bit unfair because we don't know the reality of what we call the bad guys. You know, I'm talking about the gangsters, that's the maras, you know, what they call it. It's a big problem right now. And I'm just telling the story in this context without pointing who am I going to blame? But at the end, I'm just saying that the problem right now is the part of the education that the children are having in this country, like you know, disintegrated families where just the mother is the one in charge, or the father is irresponsible. I think that's part of what's of the big problem we're having right now with all these people. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not easy to make a movie. This is, I heard, the first El Salvadorian movie in 40 years?
Yeah, it's been, you know, since the story of cinema in the early 1900s, and there was a lot of documentary filmmaking. And through all the years, it got there was even more documentary filmmaking during the 80s. You know, big, great films came out of that time. You know, that went to festivals and they were really well known. But fiction, there was a film in the 50s that, you know, nobody remembers. In 1969, it was like the first fiction film that had a big premiere in El Salvador called Fish Outside the Water, Fish Out of the Water. And since then, it's been a really, what has been done are things for television or really experimental that, you know, nobody else knows about it. So, yeah, it's been a long time without watching a film that comes out, then be released, you know, out of El Salvador.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you must feel so proud to be the one to restart it. I mean, are you inspiring? I'm imagining that you're inspiring so many local people in El Salvador where you have done it, and bringing the movie to Vancouver. How is the reaction?
Well, since the beginning, I had this great reaction from Vancouver people, and from since Alfonso was working with me, and he even showed the film over here to people. You know, it was a great response. You know, and I think part of the success of the film, it's all this relationship. You know, all these things going around, and all this really good gathering that's around the film. So, yeah, I think it's been really good.
Yeah, and then it's also in Spanish, obviously.
It's in Spanish with English subtitles.
English subtitles.
Yeah.
And so how is it when you make a movie, it's in Spanish, and then you have to bring it to the English market? Do you find it people still are interested, or do some people get turned off by the subtitles? They're like, oh, subtitles. You
know, I think Latin American cinema has its own enchant, has its own mystery with our language, and people, you know, accept it how it is. You know, some people may not like it, maybe they don't like reading the subtitles, but I think there's such a good thing with our language. Yeah.
Well, generally the North American audiences, distributors particularly, they don't like to bring a film that has subtitles, and they rather have it in English or have it dubbed. And I personally I'd rather die to see any of my films that I've collaborated in the past or that I'm going to have them dubbed with English people speaking, because it completely takes away from the actual the tone of a person saying it in the native language. Completely dynamically changes everything when you're dubbing it. So the North American audiences primarily are used to English, and subtitles are the kind of a. But you know, I've seen a trend in the last even 10 years, which is growing exponentially and farther and faster than I thought of, and is films with subtitles. You know, getting more popularity. Our film, for example, today will sell out, and we've sold out everywhere we've been through, every festival that has gone thus far. And I think audiences and people are getting to be more used to it because we're becoming more of a global village due to, you know, our own iPhones, you know, everything. Communication is changing dramatically, and the way how we are able to communicate via, you know, TV and the internet is drastically changing things. So people are more used to looking at other people's points of views, languages, and things. So I think gradually we're moving towards an era where I think there's going to be more popularity towards films with subtitles, and I think it's the only way to be. Can never dub. Dubbed is just a thing of the past, I think.
What I enjoy about a film with subtitles, especially the Spanish films, is that if you're trying to learn Spanish, it's such a great way to get it in your system, to hear people speak it, you know, and it's more genuine, like you say, you know.
There is this general, you know, feeling about anything that you learn, that the best way to do is by actually doing it. So what better way than learning a language by actually listening to it in a film? And a film would have certain other ways of people looking at the film and the conversations that are going on, that they will be able to pick things up, I think, quicker. Global village, again, you know, everybody has to, in Latin America is so important. If you live in America, particularly in America, and we do, I mean, we are very much connected to Latin America, which is growing exponentially and growing at the same pace economically as China combined. So when you look at that economic power that is coming through Latin America, Brazil, Mexico, Chile, Colombia, even Central America growing economically on a more progressive way, even though it doesn't seem for a little bit, but it is moving, and 55 million Latinos in the USA legally, and you know, we have 20,000 Salvadorians in Vancouver. So you do the math of the monumental power that Latin America has and the Spanish community has in this area, in the Americas, that I think Spanish is a very important language to and Latinos, you know, primarily, you know, in a family, your parents will speak in Spanish. The traditions, they stay, even in the U.S. where you know, they push to more English-speaking sort of to their kids. The tradition of Latin America is still really deeply, profoundly, you know, invested into the families.
Yeah. So let's take a short break, and then we'll be right back, still speaking to you. Very interesting, all these movies. We'll talk about the movie now. Talk show with Louise UWACU. We love you, the authors, the musicians, the comedians, the entrepreneurs, and all other talented and inspiring people. Please contact info@uwacu.com to be a guest on the show. Welcome back to the show, my people. So we still have Arturo Menendes and Alfonso Qujada. So you've been introduced to Alfonso Qujada already. I can see how you're the producer. You're the one who's talking.
I do like talking.
He likes talking, yeah.
So the director of the movie and the producer of the movie. So let's talk about how you guys got together, because obviously he's the behind-the-scenes guy, the director guy. I see he's very uncomfortable being in front of the cameras today. You want to direct the show?
Actually, he's very good at, you know, we've had a lot of interviews. And
he's acting well. There's some acting skills to it.
Well,
so how did you get together? How do you know each other, and how did you hook up and say, okay, we can actually work together, and on top of doing this huge project?
Well, it was in 2006. Well, how can I explain this? I lived in Spain for 5 years, and I came back to El Salvador in December 2006. And one of my great friends from, you know, all the time was also in vacation in that December. and his cousins with Alfonso. And we went to visit his father, because his father is one of the greatest writers of Central America. He's a great poet, and he's a great painter also. And the thing is, we went to visit him, and we had this great gathering in the patio. You know, we were having wine and beer, and
margaritas.
Yeah, margaritas.
Mind you, it's 12 o'clock.
12 o'clock, yeah. And we were, it was a really nice Saturday, I remember. And suddenly he told me, you got this writer friend, Alfonso Qujada, he's called, that's him. He tells me, you gotta meet my son, who's a producer in Vancouver. Hey, yeah, introduce it to me. When he comes, no, he's here. He's sleeping inside.
I'm sleeping.
Because of the...
Yeah. It was 2 p.m., when he came out. And then Alfonso came out, and we started talking, and he told me that he was producing films here in Vancouver, that he's been living in Los Angeles, that he's been an actor, and that and I told him I had this project, and so he got interested, and days after I sent him the script, and like 1 month after this, he replied to me and said, look, we got to work on this. I really love the script. So since then, since 2007, we've been, trying to, working on this project and trying to hook it up, and make it in El Salvador. And that's when this other project, the film why I'm here right now, The Crow's Nest, came in, and Alfonso, decided to come inside the project, and that's how we know each other.
It went from one project, which we're still working on, and that project, he couldn't wait for the financing to come together, because I was putting the financing together, and financing me the most important key component of making features, meaning not from the creative perspective, but from the aspect of that makes the film. So he knew that we needed to have a budget, and as we worked on that, he couldn't wait. So he decided to start shooting this project, which is the reason why we're here. And as the project started moving forward, I realized, oh my God, this is an incredible project that I have to be involved as well. And indeed, that brought us even closer, and that's how the film ended up being together. And then he ended up arranging a meeting once it was almost done with Mexico, and Mexico got involved, and Mexico brought in, a friend of his is the president and CEO of Itaca Films. It's a big company, big independent company in Mexico. They just finished producing Alfonso Cuarón's, who won the Oscar for Gravity's, his son's movie, Jonas Cuarón's movie. So they were big producers, big guys, and immediately, as soon as they saw the rough edit of Arturo's, and our project, they got involved. So we got Itaca and ourselves, my company Sevella Pictures out of Vancouver, involved in it. It was this really organic approach that he, in his, ever since the beginning of this project, has been incredible. Just the transition of festivals, and we ended up at the American Film Institute in Washington as an AFI selection, and that truly was the beginning of a journey that is ending here in Vancouver, around the world in film festivals, which we attended some, but he's attended most of them, and the response has been just terrific.
Yes.
Really good.
So how did you start as a producer? Were you trying to outdo your father? If your father is
impossible to even... My father's such a monumental figure in literature and in Latin America, and even in Spain. He's won many awards in France. So I never wanted to even put my name close to him, because he's just a whole nother human being that he's a brilliant man. I was an actor.
That's so nice of you to say.
Oh, no, I mean,
so I guess you don't have any childhood issues.
No, my parents are incredible. My family,
perfect.
And to talk about my parents, but his dad too. His dad is one of the greatest, if not the greatest in El Salvador for sure, but one of the greatest Latin American painters, contemporary painters, whose paintings are in the Museum of Modern Art in New York, London, California. And both his dad and my dad are really good friends. So inadvertently, sort of that relationship is how we met through my cousin. But as a filmmaker, I began as an actor back in the day. I used to, I won Best Actor in Vancouver, studied in London, Scotland briefly, and then came back to Vancouver as an actor.
You've lost your Spanish accent, by the way.
Sort of. I mean, it comes back, and it does come back, and you might not hear it, but some people hear it too. And I love the fact, I still love the idea that it's still reminiscent of me a little bit. But film from actor to writing, and from writing to producing. And a while back, I began to produce a project in Cuba, and it was my first production that I ever did, a Canadian-Cuba co-production. And it took a long time to put it together, but finally, when that project came to fruition, that opened a lot of doors, and that led to another film project, which we shot here in Los Angeles. And Lionsgate picked it up, and by that time, sort of the knowledge of how to produce films was sort of going deeper and deeper.
Yeah.
And meeting, Arturo in 2006 was just profound, because it changed quite a lot of way of what I wanted to do, because El Salvador became a priority because of him and his talent and his writing abilities. I knew that we needed to work and we needed to do stuff.
So why Vancouver? Why did you choose to live in Vancouver? Because you live here and he lives in El Salvador.
I've been here for 28 years. My parents brought me here back in the day when the Civil War in El Salvador was, being, just destroying the country. And we ended up in Cuba for many years, then Mexico, and then ended up in Vancouver by my parents' sort of choice, and loved it the minute I got here. Vancouver's been my city. I'm a Canadian citizen now, but proud Salvadorian, proud Latino. I've lived everywhere. LA, another of my homes, my second home, I would call it almost. Vancouver is a key city, as you know. The film industry is powerful.
Lions, when they talk about Lions Gates,
oh yeah,
they're here, right?
That's right. Well, yeah, the company.
It's an actual bridge.
It's an actual bridge that now has become one of the most powerful independent, distributors and production companies in the world. And the industry in British Columbia, almost a $2 billion industry now, growing. I decided to stick around here to continue grow and to continue educate people on the process of making independent and small feature films like the projects that Arturo has. So the next project, which right now are in the process of looking for the financing too, which are small in comparison to Hollywood movies. It's the wardrobe of an actor, but we make them for that little because they're passionate projects driven from a different force of educating and creating a way of opening the eyes to the world, to another world that they haven't seen.
Yeah. So being from El Salvador and being a writer and all the political issues that you have had in the past, I mean, how is that received? Are you sometimes scared, or how is the political situation? Does it give you enough freedom to do what you want?
Yeah, it's right now the situation is like, before, like in the 80s, in the time Alfonso and his parents had to go out of El Salvador to live in Cuba and other countries. It was it's really hard being a writer or an artist, because whatever sounds like, if you're intellectual or you think more then the government wants you to think, you become an enemy. But right now, it's all this is over. The government is not the problem. The problem is there's these people, who there's no that there's no a fundamental thing behind. It's just street gangs that are taking over some parts of the city and the country, the whole country. There's a problem of 500,000 people being part of these gangs. So being able to get rid of this, it's a process of many, many years. Mm-hmm. And right now the big problem is like sometimes I have my I've been scared of what will happen in El Salvador when I show this film, because it has some parts that mention them. You know, maybe they can get, I said, maybe they can get offended or whatever, you know, but they.
And now
hopefully
they know how you look like.
Yeah, they know how I look like. And so yes, you know, right now, what's one thing we think about is that possibility, and that should be, and that shouldn't be. You know, being afraid of these people, you know, is not. That shouldn't happen. You know? That should not happen.
So this is a problem of education, young people not having enough to
exactly.
do. What do you think would be the perfect solution to the problem that you are exposing?
You know, it's, imagine a kid, or a 12-year-old kid whose mom lives in the United States, who's by himself. He's by himself in the street, not going to school, feeling like his life is worthless, and suddenly he's in the street, and these guys come and tell him, "Look, you can be part of us. This is pretty cool. This is you will have a power here with us. You will be protected, and if something happens to you, your name will be put on the streets. You know, we'll paint your name, and we all cry your death." So these small guys, these teenagers, they just, you know, love this idea of power.
They're seduced by the power.
They're seduced by this dark power. You know, black. It's really, you know, it's really disgusting, because they, it's about death. You know, everything is about death around them.
Yeah, so when we come back, we'll keep talking about more. So let's just take a short break and then come back in a few seconds and talk more about it. UNI Talk Show with Louise UWACU. We love you, the authors, the musicians, the comedians, the entrepreneurs, and all other talented and inspiring people. Please contact info@uwacu.com to be a guest on the show. Welcome back, my people. It is short, but it's been sweet. Thank you so much, Alfonso Qujada, Arturo Menendes, for being here in Vancouver. Please tell people where they can find you, how they can come and watch your movie, and please keep making stories. I mean, I'm so sorry that it's so short, because I still had so much to ask you, but I guess we'll keep in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for the interview, thanks for the space, and hopefully, you know, you guys can watch the film tonight at the Vancouver Latin American Film Festival at 7:30 p.m. Well, you can be in touch with the film on Facebook, the fan page. It's called Crianza Mala, and you can find it there. And or in Twitter, you can follow me at Arturo Menendes.
Nice.
Yeah,
thank you so much.
All right.
Alfonso.
Well, thank you for having
words.
us. Thank you for having us. A great pleasure indeed. Facebook, Alfonso Qujada, Arturo Menendes, or Twitter, right? Twitter is the same thing, Alfonso at Alfonso Qujada, whatever, one of those Twitter things. The movie should be out probably, we hope, within the next 6 months, out into the Canadian market, so people will be able to watch it.
Okay.
So it'd be great.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias.